Ever since the release of Sound of Freedom, we've heard nothing but hit piece after hit piece from the legacy media, just trying to get people not to actually watch this movie. They've been throwing out any excuse that they can think of, including having an outright pedophile supporter make a hit piece about it for Bloomberg. And it really hasn't worked because we see at the domestic box office, it's made over $150 million on a budget of around $15 million. And that's before its international release. I mean, it's set to come out in about 20 other countries in the next couple of months. And so we'll see those numbers shoot right up. And not only that, people who actually did watch the movie overwhelmingly like the movie. I mean, you can even go to the all audience score and still 97% really good, which is even better than the top box office movies right now, like Barbie and Oppenheimer. And now we're getting this latest hit piece on it because it's just disgusting what they're doing to this movie. So Sound of Freedom fans shrug off arrest of donor for child kidnapping. Oh, a donor of the movie kidnapped a child? Are they trying to just shrug that off, or are they trying to say, like, is there really more details to it? Newsflash, yes, there is more details to it. That Miles Cleave from Rolling Stone seems to want to leave that part out. He's been actually written other hit pieces on Sound of Freedom since it's been out. I mean, it's almost like he doesn't like shining a light on pedophilia and child trafficking for some reason. I don't know why. I'm not making any accusations right here. It just seems very suspicious, especially given other news that we have heard about people writing hit pieces. But I digress. Let's go back to the article. Released on July 4th to acclaim from conservative audiences and critics. It's just acclaim from anyone who actually watched the movie. It's not a conservative movie by any stretch of the imagination, unless you're saying anti-child trafficking is a conservative point, which means child trafficking is a liberal position, which I don't think they want to make that argument. Sound of Freedom has been a box office bash, pulling in over 150 million, thanks in part to a pay it forward ticket promotion. Okay, I don't get why they even keep bringing that up. I mean, people buy tickets for other people. So what? I mean, how many people bought tickets for their child to see Barbie? No one's going to be like, oh, well, it didn't make that much money because adults bought tickets for their children. It's like, yeah, so what? What does that have to do with anything? Even while anti-trafficking groups condemned the film's distorted depiction of child sex trafficking, fans claimed it was raising awareness of the serious issue and has been found strong support amongst QAnon adherents. Yeah, the support amongst QAnon is just simply QAnon people also believe that child trafficking is bad. I think we can all agree with that. So, I mean, if you agree with child trafficking is bad, that means you have support amongst QAnon people. Now, do you believe in everything that they say? No, but that's not even what they're talking about here. So I don't know why they keep bringing that up either. It's just a way of trying to discredit it by comparison. I mean, it's like saying like, oh, vegetarians are evil because Hitler was a vegetarian. It's like, no, it's like, or the person wrote vegetarian stuff, which Hitler would have supported. It's like, yeah, he would have, but that doesn't mean you believe in anything. I mean, so it's really a ridiculous line of attack right here. But let's get down to the meat of this, because I want to understand what happened with this guy that they're saying is the financier of this movie, who is also a child trafficker, or not child trafficker, child kidnapper. Excuse me. I got to be specific here because the devil's in the details. Fabian Marta, 51, was arrested on July 22nd in St. Louis, Missouri. So this was after the crowdfunding thing was actually done, because that happened years ago, for the alleged abduction of a non-relative child under the age of 14, a Class A felony. His attorney, Scott Rosenblum, tells Rolling Stone that he plans to plead not guilty. Rosenblum adds that he is baffled by the state's case against Marta. It's very hard for me to connect the dots, and I don't really know how they're proceeding. He says, nevertheless, holding out optimism that they'll attack the charges fairly easily. So his attorney seems optimistic, but of course he's an attorney. I mean, and it's funny what they actually leave out in this statement right here, because we actually have a little bit more details in Deadline. First of all, in this article from Deadline, Angel Studios put out a statement right here. Angel Studios adhere to the requirements of federal and state law and regulations in allowing 6,678 people to invest on average of $501 each to the launch of Sound of Freedom. Okay, so it's already fallen apart, the whole narrative about like, oh, a donor was charged with child trafficking. Yes and no. It's not like he's like one of a few producers who was charged with this. It's basically a guy who chipped in some money was also charged with this as well. And this, like I said, this was also, he's charged after this happened. So even if Angel Studios hired a investigator and paid him $50 an hour to look into everyone who's donating like $10 to the movie or something like that, to try to see like what's their background or whatever, nothing would have come up. And just the fact that they're actually expecting that, I mean, it's 6,678 people that donated and he's one of them. So I think it's already discrediting the whole narrative that like, oh, people are shrugging this off because it hurts the movie. Because I don't think, even if this guy was an actual like real child trafficker, as if they're trying to insinuate, it still doesn't mean anything. It's like, because he's just one person who donated a little money. So, I mean, so what? But what's really funny is just down here in the actual article when it talks about more of the details. Deadline reached out to the attorney of Marta, Scott Rosenblum of Rosenblum, Schwartz, and Fry in St. Louis, who calls the criminal charges against his client unfounded. I don't understand how they're charging him with this, Rosenblum told Deadline. He has nothing to do with kidnapping anyone. Marta is a landlord to a woman who was involved in a custody dispute with her aunt. Marta was allegedly providing living arrangements to said woman and her child, the former who is involved in rehabbing the rental property. Okay, so basically this is what the story is right now, at least from what the details that they're saying. Marta, the guy who was alleged the child trafficker or child kidnapper who donated to Sound of Freedom, was a landlord, and one of his tenants apparently was in a custody dispute. So maybe she didn't have custody of her daughter with, maybe her aunt had custody of the daughter, and she took her daughter and took it back to the home where Marta was the landlord, and that's why they're charging him with this as well. I mean, maybe there is more details to this and he knew what was going on or whatever, but again, this is different than the picture they're trying to paint where it's saying like, oh, well, he's no different than the people in the movie, people who are kidnapping random children and then selling them overseas for sex slavery, versus a guy who, if he knew anything, didn't report that his tenant had her daughter in the apartment with her when she didn't have legal custody of it. So, I mean, that's the story. And again, is this a crime? Yeah, this is a crime. And if there's more to it than what's initially said, then I think he should be charged accordingly. But for the most part, it doesn't seem like it's too serious because he's basically been released on his own. So he just has to show up to court, and his bail was only like $15,000. So pretty much a small bail, and he just has to report to court. So they're not treating him like he's some master criminal or whatever. I mean, it just seems like it's just some type of dispute. And like I said, Rolling Stone and people who are trying to attack this movie are basically trying to paint him in the worst light possible. And they're saying like, oh, well, people who support this movie are just shrugging it off and dismissing it. It's like, no, I'm just pointing out all the facts. So now you can do with it what you will. I mean, do you think the people here are just like dismissing child kidnappers or whatever because it supports their narrative? Or do you think there's more details and people who have been trying to attack this movie are just trying to use this as another avenue and they honestly don't care about child kidnapping? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, make sure you click the like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with the latest news. Thank you.